Time to re-up YouTube. We're back with another episode of the season preview. At number 11, we have the Brooklyn Nets. We're almost in the top 10, but right outside of it, we have the team led by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Kevin Durant. It's been an eventful last couple of years for this team, and I have to say, it's been a joy to watch. Because whether you are a fan of the Nets, or you're a hater of the Nets, or you're in the middle and don't care, you can't deny they have provided us with some of the all-time NBA moments just over the last 2 to 3 seasons alone. First, KD and Kyrie go there and they ship D'Lo out to Golden State. Then they look good for like 5 or 6 games and James Harden says, yo, can I come play with y'all? And that's exactly what he does. Everybody thinks they're the most unstoppable trio in the league, despite them only playing like what, 10 or 15 games together. Long story short, Harden hurts his hamstring, they lose in the playoffs, and then the next year Harden demands a trade because Kyrie doesn't want to get the vaccine. Harden goes to Philadelphia, they get Ben Simmons in return. Simmons doesn't play for the rest of the year, and then they get swept in the first round by the team that they ironically beat in the first round last year in the Boston Celtics. Which brings us to where we are right now, with the team kinda in limbo as Kevin Durant demanded a trade after all of the fiasco in the offseason. Now we don't have to rehash the whole situation with KD demanding a trade. When I do these season previews, I'm just breaking down the team as a whole, and I'm talking about their goals, aspirations, and what they can do moving forward. But I can't lie, when it comes to the Nets, I don't know what their true goals are. I would assume it's obviously to compete for a championship, but if we're being honest, this team has question marks all across the board with essentially every single player on the roster. Hell, they even have question marks about their coach and general manager Steve Nash and Sean Marks. Let's start off with the front office and coaching staff. In the case of Sean Marks, I ain't gonna lie, he's done the best job he possibly can, but unfortunately that job just wasn't good enough. You bowed down to Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, you got on your knees for them way too much. And because you were on your knees for these guys, they're expecting you to get back on your knees and give them everything that they want. But when push came to shove and Kevin Durant said, hey, I want you and Steve Nash gone, that's when Sean Marks is like, yo, you want me to then trade you after that shit? Come on, man. That was way too far for KD, I ain't gonna lie. But at the end of the day, Joe Tsai and Sean Marks, they have to take some level of accountability because they enabled this kind of behavior out of their two superstars by getting on their knees in the first place. And in the case of Steve Nash, I ain't gonna lie, I think he's had it a little bit too rough on his end. Everybody's blaming him for their situation. I mean, it's insane the lack of accountability they're actually holding the players to for this. I mean, aside from the fact that they're the ones going on the court and underperforming or getting injured every single season, Kyrie and Kevin Durant wanted Steve Nash. It doesn't make sense why we slander LeBron James for wanting Russell Westbrook and then obviously the result was what it was. But when it comes to Hall of Fame player Steve Nash, that was the consultant for Kevin Durant in Golden State that him and Kyrie Irving signed off on, those exact same people are silent. But that's enough with the front office and the shitty coaching. Let's talk about this roster because I ain't gonna lie, it's a little bit suspect outside of their big three. And what I mean by that is surrounding Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Ben Simmons is a bunch of one-way players that have huge problems on either the offensive or defensive side of the ball. They picked up TJ Warren, who has not played since like the bubble, and on top of that, I think he's still currently injured and is not a good defender at all. Cam Thomas, I like him, he is a bucket, but he's not a great defender. And offensively, even though he has the capability to score, I don't really know how much opportunity he's gonna get to showcase that. Then you got guys off the bench that are specialists like Seth Curry, a great three-point shooter, but is a horrible defender. Patty Mills also, he's getting up there in age and has never been that good of a defender to begin with, so just imagine what he's gonna be even next year. Royce O'Neal is really a football player masquerading as a basketball player. He's a really solid defender and a decent three-point shooter, I'll give them that. He is a 3-and-D wing, but I don't consider him really an elite defender. I mean, he gets cooked all the time, especially come postseason time. Sure, it's by some of the best wings in the league, but it's not like it's gonna be that much of a different scenario in Brooklyn. Then you throw in players like Nicholas Claxton and Joe Harris that can be useful in spots, don't get me wrong, but in the case of Claxton, he's supposed to make up for a big weakness on the team, which is the lack of size, which he really doesn't do. Unless he's gonna come into next season a lot better, which is definitely possible, he's still not that great of a rebounder, and he's a horrible free throw shooter to the point that teams purposely foul him. And on top of that, he's relatively skinny, slim, and frail, which can get abused by guys like Giannis or Joel Embiid, who they're gonna have to go through more than likely just to get out of the Eastern Conference or even the first or second round. And in the case of Joe Harris, I like him as a three-point shooter. He's one of the best shooters in the league. And I think last year, if he's healthy, maybe things do play out a little bit differently. They can lose in 5 or 6 games games instead of 4. But unfortunately, we saw Joe Harris in the playoffs against the Bucks and he wasn't that good. He's a bad defender. He isn't creating his own shot because what's the need to when you have Kyrie Irving and James Harden there, and now they have Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons there along with Kevin Durant. And throw that on top of the fact that he's coming off of a major injury at 31 years old, there's a chance we may see a noticeable decline in his game. And for a one-way player like that to be nearly making $20 million this year and next year is insane, I ain't gonna lie. But then that brings us to the big three in Brooklyn: Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, and Kevin Durant. Let's start off with the small fry, Ben Simmons. I ain't gonna lie, Ben Simmons, it's been a while since we've seen him obviously play, but I think this year he's gonna have one of the best seasons of his career, probably the best year he's ever had. Unless he just comes in and he doesn't know how to play basketball, I'm expecting him to perform at an all-star, potentially all-NBA caliber level and an all-defensive team caliber level. We all know he's one of the 10 best defenders in the league when healthy. He's capable of moving his feet on the perimeter and he can defend on the interior as well. His rotations are immaculate. He can get into passing lanes, a good shot blocker obviously due to his size, can guard 1 through 5, which is a rarity obviously in the league. There aren't too many players like that, and considering that the Nets' biggest weakness in this KD and Kyrie era has been defense, to add arguably a top 5 defender in the league to the team, I'd say that's going to help out a lot. The team also struggles with size and rebounding, and even though I don't think Ben Simmons at the 5 is a permanent thing, if they do want to try some small ball lineups with him at the center position, I definitely wouldn't mind that at all. He's going to bring a level of playmaking as well, especially in transition. He has so many shooters around him, like a Joe Harris, like a Seth Curry, a Patty Mills, a Kyrie Irving, a Kevin Durant. I mean, if he can't take advantage of the spacing around him, then I don't think there's any other situation for him to be a starter. Let's just be honest here. And on top of that, he can also apply rim pressure, which this team desperately needed last year. It's clear that as good as Kevin Durant is, as far as him attacking the rim, he's not doing that with the ferocity that he used to, and Ben Simmons can add that element to the roster. Now, obviously, I'm not expecting Ben Simmons to come out and start shooting threes and mid-range jumpers. That's just not gonna happen. Let's be serious here. He doesn't have to shoot three-point shots or mid-range jumpers with some of the best mid-range and three-point shooters on the team in the starting lineup and coming off the bench. But what I would like to see from Ben Simmons is aggressiveness. I do not want to see him passing out of simple layups. I do not want to see him settling just to be a Draymond Green every single play. Don't get me wrong, he could still be one of the better connectors similar to a Draymond Green, but don't just come down the court with the intention all the time, man, I gotta find KD and Kyrie. Sometimes put your head down and go straight at the basket and go to work, bruh. Because if we're being real, Ben Simmons has always been his worst enemy. The free throws as well, that's also gotta change. I can't be seeing you going out there and looking like Shaquille O'Neal at the free throw line. That's unacceptable. His lack of aggression in the fourth quarters was literally costing the Philadelphia 76ers against the Atlanta Hawks of all teams in the conference semifinals 2 years ago. I mean, we all know the play. The man passed out of an open layup on Trae Young because he was afraid of being fouled. That's how big of an issue this problem is for this guy. So I really hope he's been in the gym practicing his free throws, because I don't want to see him going out there looking like prime DeAndre Jordan at the line. But speaking of DeAndre, let's move on to his best friends, KD and Kyrie. As it pertains to Kyrie, I think he's going to be a huge boost for this team's offense. They need a playmaker in the half court that can actually create his own shot for himself and for others. And I think Kyrie's going to have to put on his big boy pants and actually focus on creating plays for others, not just himself. He can still dance on people on the perimeter, and he's still one of the most capable ISO scorers in the league, and scorers in general. He can play off the ball as well. But as far as leveraging the gravity that he has as a scorer, whether it's drawing in double teams, hard hedging, whatever advantage it is that the defense gives the team in the half court because of his own attention, he needs to actually use it more consistently towards creating shots for others, because this team desperately needs somebody in the half court that can do that. And Ben Simmons is a great passer, but he isn't a half court playmaker. James Harden isn't walking through that door anytime soon, and Kevin Durant, we just saw his lack of issues in the half court when it comes to playmaking in the playoffs get exposed against the Celtics. So I'm gonna need Kyrie to step up as far as that is concerned. Now defensively, Kyrie isn't gonna give you too much, but I would like a little bit more effort, because it's very clear, we've seen on numerous occasions that when Kyrie tries, he's actually a decent defender. He isn't great, but he is not some liability that sometimes he can tend to be because of the lack of effort. And aside from the on the court things that I think he could tweak up a little bit, if he just plays up to his normal standards, that's still good enough for this team. Now the off the court stuff, I ain't gonna lie, he's gonna have to straighten up, whether it's playing games consistently and proving that he's a reliable option, or it's him just showing the team that he's willing to be a real leader, whether it's on the court or off the court. Kyrie needs to make it known to everybody in that organization that he is 100% bought in towards contributing on a championship team in Brooklyn. Now whether that's the plan for next season, it isn't going to matter if he can't do that this year in Brooklyn. We just saw him try to get a trade out of the team, and nobody but the desperate Los Angeles Lakers, who have his former teammate LeBron James, wanted him. So Kyrie isn't just playing for the Brooklyn Nets, he's playing for his NBA career, because it's very obvious that he wants that supermax contract, so let's see if he can pull it off. Now we finally have reached the final player, our primetime man himself, Kevin Durant, the Slim Reaper. We all know what KD's good at. He's one of the best scorers of all time, just averaged 30 points a game on over 60% true shooting last year like it's nothing. An improved playmaker even though he's not elite obviously. He's a plus defender even though he slipped from his Golden State days. That's to be expected, not only because he's getting older, but he's coming off of an Achilles injury a couple of years ago. And though I don't believe he was the player that he was in Golden State or even in OKC athletically, he's still one of the craziest freaks of natures that we have ever seen graced an NBA court. Now unfortunately, Kevin Durant did not want to be in Brooklyn. Obviously, we know he demanded his trade in the offseason. But I'm gonna say something to you, KD. It's time to make or break. Every all-time great has been met with obstacles in their career to halt them from winning a championship. Whether it's bad supporting pieces like Hakeem Olajuwon, or it's choking like Magic Johnson in the finals dribbling out the shot clock, or LeBron losing to Dirk Nowitzki in 2011. The responsibility then falls on the superstar to step up and rise to the occasion. And though I don't think the Nets are going to win the championship, I don't even have them coming out of the Eastern Conference, you can't tell me you don't have a shot. Obviously, barring any injuries, which is very possible and a big reason why I don't consider them real contenders, they still have one of the 5 to 10 best players in the world on their roster. And if Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, and the rest of their roster step up while KD is leading the charge in his own right, even if they go down in the second round or the conference finals, KD will earn a level of respect that he doesn't truly have in the basketball community unanimously. And sure, it won't be full blown because a championship is the real goal for any team, especially a player like Kevin Durant in his career right now, but going out swinging is literally the best option for him. You can't just dick down the entire Brooklyn Nets organization with your demands, then decide to leave after you had one of the worst performances of your career in the playoffs last season. That's a cowardly move, and KD, I expect better from you. I would have expected that you learned from your time in Golden State and OKC and how you left those situations. You didn't really leave on the best of terms. And though Brooklyn, in my opinion, is not the favorite to come out of the Eastern Conference, if KD is as good as people say he is, and I believe he thinks he is, then run that shit back and see what you can do this year. Now I ain't gonna lie, before I wrap this up, I'ma say this about the Brooklyn Nets championship hopes. I truly do believe this team has a high ceiling of potentially going to the finals and even winning the damn thing, but unfortunately there are just too many variables with this team that I have to consider. For starters, the health of players like Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and even Ben Simmons is definitely in question for me. Throw in the fact that this team is still missing a lot of good point of attack defenders. They only have Royce O'Neal, and Ben Simmons, though he's flexible, you're putting a lot on his plate on the point of attack and in the interior. Throw in the fact that their bench once again is filled with a bunch of one-way players that can become unplayable in the playoffs pretty easily, and it's almost the exact same situation as it was last year, but this time you have Ben Simmons who can be unplayable in the playoffs also offensively. So it's really gonna come down to how far KD and Kyrie can take this team as offensive engines, and we saw last year that if their supporting cast is not up to par on the defensive side of the ball, then they're not gonna go that far. I mean, let's not forget, they were the only team in the playoffs last year that was swept, and I don't think this team just goes from a first round exit via sweep to a championship or even a finals appearance all because you added Ben Simmons to the mix. But that's just my opinion, you guys. If you disagree, let me know down below in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your boy Young Mustard. You guys stay safe and have a blessed day. Peace.